Inside Hilltopper Athletics is brought to you by Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. Here's your host, Lynn Alum.
Welcome to Inside Hilltopper Athletics Football Edition Week 10. As always, I'm Lynn Alum, Director of Athletics here at West Liberty University, joined by head football coach Roger Waialae. Coach, thanks for joining us. Long trip back.
Yeah, well, it was a long trip there. The trip back was fairly good, but we ran into some troubles getting down there, but you'll have that.
How far was the trip?
Well, actually, it's only 8.5 hours, but because of traffic and then bus drivers going down, it took over 10 hours just because we got stuck in traffic. They went over their allotment. They had to pull over. We had to wait on the side of the road for the bus to re-click, actually. They have monitors on the bus that don't let them drive over 10 continuous hours. So, but all in all, it was a good trip. It's just things are going to happen that way sometimes.
Well, the Hilltoppers returned on the short end of a 24-3 verdict against homestanding Pembroke. Coach, thoughts on the game?
It was really our inability to make plays in the special teams and offensively. I thought defensively we did okay. We gave up a couple big plays, but, it was a defensive struggle. We actually monopolized the ball. We monopolized it, when I say the ball, the time of possession. We almost doubled them in plays and didn't do the one thing you have to do to win games, and that's get into the end zone. I think the difference in the game is they were 3 for 3 in the red zone, and we were 1 of 4. And we got a field goal blocked. We missed one, then we made one. I mean, all them points add up in those point in times. And then before half, we had to burn a timeout, which caused us to have to get out of the run game. And, this is where you got to, and this, it's going to your, what would you do in that situation? Well, we had to burn the timeout because we were misaligned. And that would have took us farther back. So then we're sitting there with 15 seconds. We had some run plays that we thought would be an advantage, but if you run the ball in that situation, you only get one play. And so we went to some pass plays that we have had success with in the past, and it was just off timing, off kilter for us. And, those things, I guess, happen. But we have to make plays moving forward, especially offensively, as well as we move the ball at times. You got to get into the end zone.
Yeah, red zone scoring is so important.
Right.
And there's very few games, again, me being a stat nerd, where you almost double them in plays and time of possession, and you come out on the short end of a 24-3 game. So kind of par for the course. We've talked about not only our own game, but all the games in a conference this year. It has been a weird year. And last week this show was Halloween themed,
right.
But it's been Halloween all season.
Yeah, you got some teams that are really Jekyll and Hyde teams. They one week they look like they're unbeatable, and the next week they don't even show up, and that's throughout the conference. It's not just relegated to us. You look at how bad even Pembroke, how bad it was a completely different team that played against us, that played against Charleston. And then the same thing, State beats Concord, and Concord goes down and handles Wheeling like it's nothing. And, Glenville comes back and beats State 31-30, blocked an extra point there in the fourth quarter. So there was just some weird things that's gone on all year in this conference.
Yeah, and probably for me, what makes it so unusual, teams that if there were spreads on the game, you're looking at coin flip type games, a spread of 3 points or less, and then the margins of victory. Pembroke lost 70-21 or something
right.
2 weeks ago. Concord got Wheeling 62-31. You just don't expect that big of a margin of victory. So it just goes to show it has been an unusual year.
Yeah, and it comes down to, you got to be healthy going into the game. Talking with Coach Richardson, they weren't at full force, he thought, against Charleston. I don't know if that's playing a factor in all that. I just think everybody's so evenly matched. Whoever gets the momentum is able to strive off the momentum and keep going, no matter who it is. I mean, you had a close game a couple weeks ago with Wesleyan and A&B. And, Westland shocked everybody and came out on top where everybody thought AB would. So, again, I've never seen it like this, and I imagine you've never seen it like this, how evenly matched everybody is all weekend.
Yeah, it's been a very deep league, so much parity. For the viewers out there that maybe weren't able to tune in, tell some of the big plays of the game, for the good or bad.
Well, I mean, early in the game, what could have swung the momentum of our game, they muff a punt. Our guy tries to pick it up. All he has to do is fall on it. And we try to explain the rules to him. If somebody muffs a punt, you can't advance it. Wherever you pick it up is where it is. And we had a clean shot just to fall on the ball. We tried to pick it up, got hit from behind, dropped it, and then they recovered it. And then that's another red zone opportunity. And I'm going to talk about the negative plays first, the big, long touchdown run to start the scoring off for them. That was a big play in the game. But, if you look at, like, for us, we converted on some third downs. I thought Jamie came in and played really, really well when Rudy went down with injury. Jamie came back to the form we thought he'd be in, and then he ended up hurting his ribs. But, I thought some of the bigger plays for us is not our we've been so good on special teams for the last few weeks, and I thought our kickoff return team was poor at best. We didn't provide any scoring opportunities, where in the previous few weeks we're having big returns, and so we got to look at what we're doing there and regroup and see if they figured it out or if it's just effort or what it is. So, but again, some of the little plays you talk about, I think, changing the momentum of the game has fallen on the muff punt. I thought that would have really gave us another shot of adrenaline, and who knows what would happen. Like I said, in this league, it's crazy. Whoever gets the momentum first is usually taken off with it.
How about unsung heroes? Anybody that you thought played well that wouldn't show up in a box score?
I thought Anthony Barmer played well for his first extended period playing time. Defensively, I thought John Brown played good at times. I noticed him a lot during the game, sacks and those types of things. One of the unsung heroes all year has been Sabella, the long snapper. I don't think we had one bad snap in this game. So the guys that are playing their roles, and again, Bober had a nice game for us again. So, those are guys that, don't realize it, and then all of a sudden they jump, boy, he made a nice play here. He's doing what he's supposed to do.
How about playing on grass? Any different than playing on turf? What would you think is the difference?
Well, if you're fundamentally sound, I think the biggest problem is a lot of times on turf you'll get away with keeping your feet under you and not falling. I thought we did a good job. I didn't see us slipping. I didn't see us planning. I thought we were fundamentally sound in our cuts. We did go out on the softball field and practice some route running, because I think you're more concerned of it. Two positions with the receivers running their routes, and the other thing, the long snappers. For some reason, long snappers have struggled going from turf to grass, and so I don't think it didn't have an effect on the kicking game whatsoever. So no, I kind of liked it. I think the kids kind of liked it too. You didn't come out of the game with 5 million rug burns or road rash, whatever they call it.
Well, there's a big debate going on in the NFL right now.
Right.
That players are starting to fire back that we should all play on grass. Thoughts on that?
Well, I think that because on grass you don't get so many of the non-contact ACL, MCL strains or tears. And I think that's what because those put them guys out for almost a year. And Odell Beckham, nobody touched him, planted wrong on turf, and they think on grass it's going to give more and you're not going to have that effect. So I can understand it. They're making $1 million a year, and sometimes that ends somebody's career. I think if everybody had their druthers, they would want to play on grass. Unfortunately, the climate we live in, and in order to practice, not play the games, in order to practice, you have to have turf. Because you can imagine with the amount of rain we've had, if we only had this field, it'd probably be underwater in a mud bowl, and so you wouldn't be very conducive to playing games on it.
Yeah, there's no surefire way to solve this debate, because as very well as I do, the last year that we played on grass here. Massive rain at the beginning of the year, lost the grass,
Right.
and then played on a dirt bowl for the whole season.
Right.
So we just do not have the financial means to
Right.
buy the rolled turf and bring it in and lay it down every other week. So,
Or the landscape to put in multiple practice fields. That's why the Steelers, you look at the people that have natural grass. They got 5 or 6 practice fields that are all natural grass, and that's not financially feasible for us.
right. Tuesday morning quarterback, you mentioned maybe a little bit earlier. Any other thing that if you could?
No, that was really the only thing is before half, we had to make a decision as a coaching staff. All right, do we run it? Do we, take the one chance and run it, or do we give us multiple plays? And I think doing it again, I'd give us as many plays as we possibly can to get it in.
Last part of this segment, we're 9 games into the season. We have 2 remaining. What is a part of the game that has pleasantly surprised you, and maybe a part of the game that we need to clean up at this point?
Obviously the biggest surprise for me and going into the season, it was my biggest fear because of the amount of graduation we had up front defensively. And we were able to reload there. And, when you lose guys like Trevor Hoosier, Kenyon Felder, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple more that played predominantly at the snaps defensively last year up front, that was the biggest question mark, and they've been the most consistent part of the team. So it was a surprise because I didn't know who would step up. I thought Cam Rice has stepped up. John Brown has stepped up. Delano Marcellus has stepped up. And then you got the second group that comes in, and they've stepped up and played well. So I think that's the biggest surprise. Obviously the biggest now is our inability to make plays offensively. It just seems like we never get an easy one. And we have to work so hard just to scratch and claw. We need to have somebody make a big play and get some easy ones for us these last 2 games.
Yeah, that's a good observation. All right, that wraps up segment 1. Got to take a break. We'll be back talking about next week's opponent.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Roger Waialae. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Hilltoppers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
Inside Hilltopper Athletics is brought to you by Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. Here's your host, Lynn Coach.
Welcome back to Inside Hilltopper Athletics. I'm joined by our head football coach, Roger Waialae. Second segment talking about the upcoming opponent. This week, the Hilltoppers travel to West Virginia State University in Institute, West Virginia, right outside of Charleston. Coach, different starting time than normal. You want to elaborate?
Yeah, with us driving down the day before and our conference commissioner trying to really see how 6 o'clock night games on Saturday would go versus Thursday, we decided to try it. Got together with Coach Pennington. Coach Pennington said, yeah, let's see how the Friday or Saturday night at 6 goes. And so we're going to try it, see how it goes down. And for us, it's a little easier. We get to sleep in a little bit, but on the flip side, the negative part, we're going to get back at probably 3 a.m. again, and then have to come out to work on Sunday to get ready for the following week's game because, we have to go Sunday and Monday next week because Tuesday we have to give everybody off.
Yeah, I can't think of more than 1 or 2 times we've ever played a Saturday night game. Correct?
Yeah, this is the first time for me. I can't ever remember playing one. I remember Thursday night. We never played on Friday. We had a bunch of different times on Saturday, but never Saturday night.
What about the old Alumni Bowl? Was that not a Saturday night or not?
Oh, I wasn't the head coach then. But yeah,
I think at least one of them was
one of them against Westminster was actually 2 of them against 3. Glenville and Westminster twice. down on the island because we played against Rich and them, and we were up at halftime. They came back and beat us. And then the 2 games versus Westminster down there on the island.
Did you see the regional rankings that were
No,
released?
I didn't.
I believe Notre Dame 6th, Concord 10th in this week. So thoughts, conference standings?
Well,
anything?
because of the and this is what kills you the way we do. Because of the parity in the conference, it's killing us. With the multiple losses, and you never have an easy game. Even if you're playing the teams that haven't won a game or won one game, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a physical war. So, how many Northeast 10 teams got in?
I couldn't say off the top of my head.
Okay,
I looked at it. I was up sick last night, and I saw it come across and clicked on it real quick.
Yeah,
so.
I'll look at it here, but it's going to be a struggle for us to get in. I think we're going to have to get in by earned access as everything plays out with the strength of schedules and the multiple losses. Most years it's hard to get 2 lost teams in. And, I don't foresee any 3-loss teams getting into the playoffs. I mean, something crazy is going to happen in the PSAC and the GMAC. But if you look at it, Ashland took a defeat this week, which jumps one of their other 1 or 2-loss teams above us because Ashland beat Notre Dame. So
Yeah. Shepherd was 1, Ashland was 2, I believe.
yeah, so I mean, and that's the right now the PSAC, and then I saw that Assumption beat New Haven, so that gives New Haven 2 losses.
Tell the viewers that may not be as aware how our region works. How many teams get in?
Well, right now 7 teams get into the playoffs, and the number 1 seed will have a bye the first week. And so from there, the way you get in is obviously the biggest thing is winning percentage. And then second thing is strength of schedule. We don't really, because of football, I've never seen it get into available players. But the 2 biggest criteria are strength of schedule and your winning percentage. And the way your strength of schedule is figured out is off of your opponent's winning percentage and then your opponent's winning percentage. So, the more out of conference games you bring in, the more apt you're bringing in teams with sub 500 sub 500 records.
I'm going to weigh in on this. I would be a firm proponent on raising that to 8. I don't like the bye because in some instances when you're talking different conferences, those teams don't have a chance to play each other.
Right.
So it's hard to definitively in times say this is the best team. Having the bye, I think, would be a huge advantage, even if it's from an injury standpoint.
Right.
So I would like to see them go to just 8. Everybody plays a first-round game. What about at the Division I level? You for an expanded field, get it to 8, get it to 12, 16. What do you think?
The more they let in, the more opportunity it is for them to make money. I think that, normally, for the most part, the 4 teams. But what you eliminate when you only have 4 teams or limit is somebody getting hot at the end of the year. That say, Texas lost their quarterback early in the year and got 2 losses, and their quarterback's back, and now they come back and run the table, and they probably, in an 8-team playoff, they might be in and might be able to run the table. So that's what you eliminate when you do that. You're just going with 4. But for us, the reason we always get as the coaches, obviously we've pushed for 8, and as many we want to be the same as, because we have the least amount of teams that make it to postseason play. But what's thrown in our face is the formula of how many Division II football teams there are. And then financially, that's paying for another game, and, that's the rationale behind it.
Yeah, well, I would never buy the financial side because
they got billions
of dollars. If they launch an expanded Division I playoff, there's money to burn. So let's continue with this. We're late in the season, 2 weeks left. Does that in any way change your prep time for a game? Does it change how you practice because kids are beat up? What's the thoughts with 2 games left?
Well, it does become more mental. There's not a whole lot of physicality, I would say, during practice. We kind of, we don't ease up. We try to practice as fast as we can, but we try to eliminate the bigger hits. The only thing we actually cut down is on indie time, where we're a big 20 to 30-minute individual time. This point in the year, your individual time 10 to 15 minutes, get the footwork stuff done that they need to get done every week, and then let's get into practice and schematically make sure we're not making the same mistakes we've made.
How about to end this, as I'm always quizzing you at the end of every one of these, best players you've ever coached against or best teams that you've ever coached against?
Well, you go so far, when you do this long enough, you go so far back. In the recent future, I think Jaleel McLaughlin, the running back, but people forget the running backs is Shepard, Billy Bean, Javon Wallace. I mean, they had a flurry of players that came through there. Right now, the receiver at Concord's playing about as well as we've seen receivers play in this conference, but you go back to George and Drenning at Glenville. I mean, what a dynamic duel they were during that time when they were there. But, I think every team has gone through. And then, you can't defensively. You got to look at Chomsky that was at Charleston. What a career he had there. Came in as a quarterback, ended up being an NFL draft pick as a defensive end. And people forget he was their punter their first freshman year. So, there's been so many players that caliber. The Peters kid, the safety that was at Shepherd, had a really, really good career, had a lot of interceptions. So, that's looking across the board. And people know that Javon Wallace played his freshman year at State and then transferred to Shepherd. So there's some guys that's been through the conference. One of my favorite players, and I know I'm going to forget his name, was a strong safety that played for State back in the mid-2000s. I mean, we used to try to get him out of the play because he would make plays against us in the run game. So if we ran the ball, we jumped the tight end, so he'd stay backside, and if we were throwing the ball, we kept the tight end or to motion the receiver to him to get him out in coverage.
Well, we've had some good football teams in our conference over the years, and the old WVIC Shepherd kind of carried the mantle there near the end of that reign. The MEC, we've had multiple teams.
Right.
Notre Dame has made it to national championship game, right? Or semifinals.
Semifinals. Shepherd, they're second to last year, and the MEC made it to the national championship game. Concord's made it to the semifinals. Notre Dame's made it to the semifinals. So, that's where they stand. I thought last year that probably the Frostburg team would have made a big pitch in the playoffs, but they weren't eligible yet.
Yeah, there's some quality football. Well, that wraps up this week's edition of Inside Hilltopper Athletics. Don't forget, different starting time this week, 6 p.m., West Virginia State. Good luck, Coach, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
What are you working for? Do you want to pursue your athletic potential while earning a degree that will benefit you for a lifetime? Do you want to play at the highest level in your sport? Do you want to be a champion? That's what the 12 proud members of the Mountain East Conference are advancing toward every day, providing opportunities and pursuing excellence. The Mountain East Conference.